Hey guys, Raymond here from the Beginner Photography Podcast. Today I'm talking to a photographer who gets more likes on Instagram and Facebook in a day than I get in an entire year, yet struggles with depression and feeling inadequate. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast with Raymond Hatfield, the podcast dedicated to interviewing world-class photographers to ask them the questions you want answered. Whether you want to be the world's best wedding photographer, family photographer, pet photographer, or you just want to take better photos of your kids growing up, we will get you to start taking better photos today. Here with you as always, husband, father, home brewer, LA Dodgers fan, and award-winning Indianapolis wedding photographer, Raymond Hatfield.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening in and hanging out with me this week for the Beginner Photography Podcast. It has been quite an incredible week for me. It's super slow, right? It's super slow right now with photography in the middle of winter. Not a lot of things going on. You would think that being right after New Year's, that a lot of people are getting engaged, and they are. But a lot of the times, people think that engaged couples immediately start reaching out for photographers, but a lot of times they don't. And I know what you're thinking. This is just a roundabout way of me saying that I'm not getting any inquiries right now for as early in the year as much as I should be right now. But that's not really the case. I have been getting some inquiries, and things are looking pretty good. I have a few engagement sessions scheduled soon, but I just am trying to give you guys some insight, right? Being, maybe this is your first year really trying to go hard at wedding photography, and you're wondering, why aren't I getting any inquiries? Everybody just got engaged over the holiday season. And yeah, that's absolutely true. But like I said, sometimes, especially when brides first get engaged, they want to enjoy that feeling for as long as possible before they really get into the real work of starting to plan a wedding, which means reaching out to venues and photographers. So if you're not getting any leads right now, don't worry. Don't fret. At least for me, I have found that February is definitely the month where things really start to pick up. Those inquiries really start to come in, and that is when business starts to get going. So one thing that you can be doing now is keeping up on your Facebook, letting everybody know that you are a photographer. If you're following the 2017 photography, ways that you're going to improve or jumpstart your photography in 2017, that's one of them. Let everybody know that you're a photographer, and now more than ever, because you want to be at the top of everybody's mind when they're thinking about hiring a photographer. A lot of people know other people getting engaged, and you want them to recommend you. So, just put something out there on Facebook. Let everybody know, hey guys, if anybody's looking for a wedding photographer for your wedding, just get in contact with me. I'd love to chat. It doesn't have to be anything, hard salesy. Just, open up the door to communication and just go from there. So I hope that little bit of knowledge helped. Early in the morning here in Indianapolis, and it is freezing. I think yesterday was like -17. I would love to know where it is that you live, where you're from, and what the weather's like, and what you're doing this time of year in photography. I know that when I lived out in California, it was a whole lot easier to go out in January and shoot with some friends, or go out and do whatever, just go outdoors. However, with this weather, you don't get out as much. So if you live in the Midwest, maybe you got a camera for Christmas, or you're just really excited to go out and practice something new. How are you dealing with that? I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear, what your solutions are. Maybe you could help others out by letting them know what it is that you do, and, just how you stay creative, I guess. Real quick, before we get into this week's episode, I wanted to ask if you guys are part of our Instagram daily photo challenge. Right? We got a bunch of people in there who are posting every day, and they're having a ton of fun. So if you want to be a part of this, just doing photography that is creative without, having to worry about, anything really. You're just doing it for fun. I mean, my photos are just taken with my phone. It's just something different. And the point is to kind of be more creative in your everyday surroundings, and just to think about things slightly different and see the world just a little bit differently. Right? That was the Apple ad, right? Think different, but really it's think differently. Did I just butcher that? Anyway, join us on Instagram with the Beginner Photography Podcast daily photo challenge. We're a few days in, and like I said, people are really enjoying it. I'm enjoying it, and I would love to check out what it is that you're shooting and, join the conversation. It'd be a ton of fun. Anyway, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. This week's episode is one that I think is going to strike a chord with a lot of people, because a lot of people feel inadequate when it comes to photography. A lot of people feel like they're not good enough, right? They look at everybody else's photos and think, oh gosh, I can't take that photo. These photos are way better than mine. What am I doing in this industry? Well, today I'm talking with a photographer who is an amazing photographer. In fact, I mean, he's constantly featured on wedding blogs and other websites, and his social media following is over 24,000 people. 24,000 people. That's the size of the city that I grew up in, and it was a college town, and there was a lot of people there. I mean, that's a very impressive social following. The amount of likes and comments that he gets on each photo is just something that I couldn't imagine, right? And I'm not saying that likes and comments are the metric, I guess, for how good of a photographer you are. But there's something to be said when 24,000 people are following you on social media. They like what it is that you're saying, whether it is through words or your photography. In this case, it's both. It's a really interesting mix. And yet at the same time, through all of that, the photographer still feels inadequate sometimes, still feels like, suffers with I don't know, I guess mild depression is the way to put it, and likes to, stay inside and just recharge whenever he can. It was really interesting. When I first started, I thought, wow, the goal is to get as many fans and likes and followers as you can, and then that is the metric of that you've made it, that you're successful. And hearing BJ talk, it's clear that is not the case. And in fact, there's more pressure than ever when you have a social media following that size. So today we are going to get into it right now. Here is the interview with BJ Matthews Creative. Today's guest is a self-proclaimed adventurer with a deep curiosity for life. With over 5,500 fans on Facebook, 18,000 followers, I should say, on Instagram, and nothing but 5-star reviews with comments like, "Your work is impeccable," and, listen to this one, "Trust me, you should hire B. Matthews Creative," like change your wedding date to accommodate his schedule kind of hire. I was surprised to read that he struggles with depression, and I want to welcome today's guest, BJ Matthews. BJ, it's very clear to see why you're in high demand. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Was all that just about right?
Just about.
Okay.
I could kick Jessica for writing that on her review.
Seriously, when I read that, I mean, that is the thing that I would want brides to see. That's exactly what I would want. What I would want in a review. So there's no kicking necessary. You should go and give her a giant hug and tell her that she's the best. So
Free photos for life.
Free photos for life. That would work for me. I would do that. So I kind of want to dig into a little bit about your photography, but I want to get into this because, like you said, a lot of people kind of struggle with varying degrees of depression, right? And when I read that you struggle somewhat with depression, right, I kind of want to get into where on the scale it lies, but I was shocked because the amount of love that you get on Facebook and the amount of love that you get on Instagram and the amount of love that you get from your clients, to me, somebody who's never, I guess, really struggled with anything like this, It just kind of confusing to me. However, I know that a lot of listeners feel inadequacies sometime when they're starting out. So has being open about what you struggle with helped you at all?
Oh, a lot. Whenever I first kind of got into the industry, started getting a lot more followers and things like that, there was a lot of pressure to kind of put out that, that perfect life. We're photographers, we get to travel, we're constantly surrounded by love. People always want to be your friend because you make them look pretty. But there's still kind of that dark side that I think every creative kind of deals with. Like you're you're kind of in your own head. You doubt yourself a lot, and it's really easy to, compare yourself to other people and get caught up in those inadequacies. But it was just kind of, I forget who it was. I think it was Jasmine Star that I was listening to talk one day, where she talked about just being more real on social media. And so from that point on, I kind of made, whatever I posted or whatever I shot or whatever my captions were, just kind of like what I was going through in life, just focusing more on, I don't live a perfect life. I work 8 to 5. I come home, I sit on the couch a lot. I don't see a lot of people. I'm a very introverted person. But yeah, I mean, just opening up like that, people started to just treat me a little more, I don't know, treat me a little differently, because it was like they were seeing a real person instead of just some, artist on a pedestal like some people like to place themselves on.
Yeah, like this perfect godlike model of rock star photographer.
Yeah, which I'm very far from.
Would you even want to be that level of photographer?
No. Like, I feel like the minute you're not relatable to the people that you want to be surrounding yourself with is kind of the minute that you just kind of lose yourself. Because I don't ever want anybody to feel like they can approach me or talk to me or hang out with me or something just because I'm a photographer. Like, I feel that way about some people, but then I meet them and I'm like, okay, you're totally different than what you put off on social media. And so I just kind of want to be a little more real on social media. Like, I'm an emotional dude. I cry a lot. Like, let's talk about it,
I cry a lot at Interstellar. That was a sad movie, man.
Never seen it.
You never... If you don't feel like crying, don't watch it. Have you seen the movie Boyhood?
No, not yet.
Oh, man. I can't remember the last time that I cried at a movie, but in 2015, I cried at both those movies, Boyhood and Interstellar. And I mean, when I say cry, I mean, it was like a baby. Like, it was almost borderline embarrassing how much I was crying. So I completely understand.
Inside Out.
Yeah, Inside Out was a sad one too, for
it was
sure.
So sad.
Oh, man. Childhood. It's crazy when you look back at it. But we totally got off track right for a second. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, how you started in photography? Because you mentioned that when you started to get more followers, there was this pressure to put out great content. But how did it feel when you first started out?
Oh, God, like I was shouting into an empty valley, really. Like, I felt like I had so many things to say, and my parents were the only ones listening to me.
And you were trying to say these things through photography?
Yeah, I guess. I started shooting in high school for journalism. I was on the yearbook staff, and I drug my best friends around town, trying to get them to model for me, borrowing the school's camera because I didn't have my own at that point. I got my first camera for my 18th birthday. It was a Nikon D80. My parents actually kind of faked me out because I was being a brat about how that was the only thing I wanted and nothing else would be as good. So my mom actually bought me a pink Barbie point-and-click camera and gave it to me for my 18th birthday. And I was just like, Mom, this isn't funny. I was so disappointed. But she ended up actually like bringing out the real camera after that. And then I started working at a studio in my hometown, and it was just, I had no idea what I was doing, but I like creating pretty things. And so that was kind of what my whole goal was, that as a photographer, was just to create something pretty. It didn't really have any meaning. I didn't really have anything to say when I first started, but I just wanted to put pretty stuff out there and people to hire me. Then did a couple family weddings for like $75, $200. Kind of got into that while I was doing my undergrad. And then once I graduated, it just kind of actually exploded. And that's when it really took off. And once we were booking like 20 weddings is when we started seeing a lot more followers. And that's when the pressure kind of hit, because whenever you have thousands of people following you, you always have to put out that good work. Otherwise, they're going to start unfollowing you. And so I think that's kind of when the pressure hit, was whenever I graduated and I was in the real world and I had more time to devote to photography and figuring out my voice as an artist and all that drama.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. So, do you still shoot Nikon real quick?
No, I just switched in April to Canon.
Oh, you just switched to Canon, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. To the 5D Mark IV?
Mark III, actually.
Really? What was it about? Usually it's the other way around. I'm just a little shocked. What was it about Canon that made you switch?
I'm a little bit of a moodier shooter. I don't shoot very bright. And Canon straight out of camera, I mean, it's just so close to the tones that I wanted. And so I always just kind of stuck with that. Rented it a few times while I was still shooting Nikon, got the handle on it, and then just made the full switch this year because I mean, you can't beat it. But not a fan of the Mark IV.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people saying that the Mark IV, even just last week, the guest that I had on said, I think you heard the episode with Paul Sena. He said that he was like, yeah, the Mark IV is all right, but I don't know, the Mark III is really what blew me away. But yeah, that's a great journey that you've had through photography. So you said that you're shooting like 20 weddings a year at this point?
Yeah, I think we had 25 last year and 27 this year. Just kind of steady growth, which has been cool.
Yeah. So when you say we, who else is involved?
Well, me and my second shooters. I
Gotcha.
usually pull some random that's not a photographer and just kind of train them my way so that they kind of shoot similar that I do. So right now, my best friend Nathan, he kind of shoots with me.
That is a great tip that I think a lot of people don't follow. They try to find the best photographer to be their second shooter, and then just for some reason end up hating the photos because they look nothing like their own. But that's a great tip, is taking somebody who doesn't really know much about photography and training them to shoot for you. So that's very smart.
Right.
So you also mentioned that you still work like a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job, when traditionally full-time photographers are only shooting like 30 weddings a year. So can I ask why maybe you haven't made the jump, or if you were even planning to, or if you're just using this as like a creative outlet? And I mean, there's no wrong answer here.
Right.
I'm just interested.
I would love to be full time, but I have a lot of student loans because
Oh,
I was not serious about school my first 2 years. But yeah, student loans keep me from doing a lot of that. But I also kind of love what I do. And I'm very accustomed to double income, so that's really hard to give up. And it's my benefits job, and I don't want to have to pay for insurance.
yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, that totally makes sense. I think that's great because there's a lot of listeners here who have no aspirations of, ever going full time, but they love the creative outlet that photography is. So being able to hear that you, at this point at least, are doing that and enjoying it, and still shooting the incredible amount of weddings that you're shooting is really hopeful for them. Do you outsource any of your editing, or do you outsource?
I did this year. This was my first year. Used Photographers Edit for, I think, 22 of the weddings, just because for the sake of my sanity in May and June, because those are my busiest months. I think we had 17 of our 27 weddings between those 2 months.
Between the 2 months?
Yeah, because it was double weekend shooting. It was stupid insane. I mean, it was. I'll never do that again.
Well, this year you
But
said that now you have more weddings than you did last year. Did you make sure to not double book yourself?
no, this was the year that I double booked myself. It was,
Oh,
yeah. It was a little hectic, but we made it through because I mean the outsourcing wasn't bad. I had a turnaround time of about a week at one point because I was calling the wedding the next day, sending it off, and it was done in 3 days and back in the client's hand within a week, which was so out of the ordinary for me because working full time, it's usually like 4 to 6 weeks.
yeah.
Usually on the latter side of that.
And when you're shooting a wedding every weekend, it's easy to get so backlogged. So
That it is.
that's cool.
Very
That's
easy.
cool. Well, okay. I want to ask. It's I mean, we're kind of going back to the depression thing right here, because again, I mean, it seems like you're really enjoying what it is that you do, and like I said, just the following that you have is incredible. One, I kind of want to ask, what do you attribute your growth on social media to?
Features. I've been lucky enough to be featured on Magnolia Rouge a couple times. Been published with Wedding Wire a couple times, and it's stuff like that. We saw a couple of thousand followers come from Magnolia Rouge. I actually got to meet the creator of it at a workshop that I attended. She was super nice. But it's just stuff like that, and getting out there and commenting and engaging with people that you want to follow you. There's no easy way around it really. But Cody Harris kind of taught me that because he's a good friend of mine, and he's really big on Instagram, and so he was kind of like, if you want that growth, this is what you kind of have to do, and so we went after that. But yeah, I think that answered your question. I think I got off
Yeah,
topic.
no, it did for sure. One thing is that a lot of people starting out, they look at photographers with thousands and thousands and thousands of followers and just assume like they got this nailed, like they figured it out. But I saw you roll your eyes there. That's funny for anybody just listening. When it comes to I guess, having a following like that, how much do you still have to market yourself versus people just coming to you because you have such a large following? Let me frame that differently. I guess people assume that when you have such a large following, that people are just going to naturally just come to you. But is that the case, or do you still have to actively go out there and market yourself?
I don't do any kind of paid marketing. Our biggest source of income is just word of mouth. Our brides refer us, friends refer us, people that follow us on social media refer us. But I wouldn't attribute that to a big following by any means. Because I mean, if I wasn't out there shooting actively and engaging with people, I don't think anybody would book me.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So we're kind of. I kind of want to ask, on a scale from, because like I said just a few minutes ago, you seem like you kind of got your stuff together. You've figured out a flow that you're in right now, and it seems very comfortable. And as somebody who's never been through, I guess, the emotions of depression, however, I've definitely felt my inadequacies when I scroll through my social feed, and it's very easy to fall in that trap. You see how, at least it seems like, you see how much better other photographers are doing. You see how much better other photographers' photos are. And suddenly you're like, what am I even doing this for, right? So on a scale of why can't that be me, to I'm just going to give up on everything, where would you say that you are on the depression scale?
uh, Most days, somewhere towards the very beginning.
Okay. Yeah.
Why can't that be me? But there are a lot of times when it's like 5 points past the last. Like I give up, I quit. This is stupid. Why am I not out there shooting beautiful mountains? All this cool stuff when I'm stuck in Arkansas. But, and I think that was kind of like a personal shift I've had lately. I'm not really sure what happened, but shooting weddings every weekend and working full time, there's not a lot of downtime. Like I'm always around people, and I'm the type of person that needs time to recharge. So the longer we're shooting and not having breaks and doing those things, I think that's kind of when I get the most in my head about what I'm doing, because I'm not having time to kind of process what I've done. So there are times when I've shot 6-7 weekends in a row where I'll have a weekend where I don't even get out of bed because I just have no will to get out of bed, and I just don't want to do anything. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to talk about anything. I don't want to touch a wedding. That's just the reality of it sometimes. But yeah, I think I got off topic and forgot what you asked me.
No, for sure. I mean, I think that makes sense. There's a lot of times where I've said this a lot of times on the podcast, is that when I get home from a wedding, I won't look at it for the first week. Like, I'll import it, but I won't look at the photos because I will immediately just hate myself. I'll feel like, oh my gosh, they're going to figure out like I'm a fraud. Like, I'm going to go bankrupt. My family's going to go broke. We're going to go homeless. This is going to be the worst thing that could ever happen to me. But I found that for some reason, just waiting a week before I, take a look at those photos again is really, oh, okay. Hey, it's not so bad. I got some real keepers in here. And I hate to say, like wine, it gets better with age, but I've definitely found that a lot of times when I go back and look at my stuff later, it does, it does kind of get better. And I think that it's interesting because what makes me feel better is, and I hate to say that it's from outside influences, but whenever I get a review, or whenever I get, even just a comment saying like, wow, this is a beautiful shot, it makes me feel better inside. It makes me feel like I'm on the right track. And like we talked about, I mean, the reviews that you have are incredible. I mean, telling people to move their wedding date to accommodate your schedule is literally the most incredible review that as a photographer you could ever have. Do comments like that make you feel a lot better?
Oh yeah. I mean, you can't read something like that about yourself and not kind of give yourself a pat on the back, like, yeah, I did something good. I made somebody happy. But sometimes I have to remind myself that a lot of these people that comment these things, they don't know me, or they're kind of where I was when I started. They're kind of, reaching out. They want to be on that level. Not saying I'm like on some high level, but, they want to be shooting some of the things that I shoot, because I do get to shoot some beautiful things. So sometimes I try to remember that and I'm like, okay, this makes me feel good because somebody's where I was and I've made it here. There is a difference between where I've been and where I am. But at the same time, it's still sometimes a little empty because
How
you're like,
so?
okay, well, like these people don't know me. I don't know any of these people in real life. They can, they say all these things nice on social media, but at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's just still just a comment, but it kind of reminds you of why you do what you do at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's still a good amount of attention that somebody is paid to your work, and I would think personally that comments from strangers, for lack of a better word, would almost make me feel better because they're not trying to go out of their way because they're a friend to pat me on the back and like, I guess just pat me on the back and say really nice things because they feel obligated to. I think that if somebody, like I said, were to go out of their way and say, "Wow, man, like this is a great photo," and me think like they were scrolling, like they were spending their time on Facebook or whatever, they saw my photo, they stopped, and then not only did they stop, but they liked it enough to tell me like, "Hey, like you did a really great job." I would feel that wouldn't be empty, but it would be almost more fulfilling.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm
You
weird
just like
about
the
it.
personal connection between
Yeah,
people more.
it's great, and I appreciate everybody that has ever paid attention to my work because I wouldn't be even close to where I am without it. But at the same time, I don't know, it's just a weird feeling because I guess sometimes I just don't believe what they're saying. I'm like, I don't necessarily love this image as much as you, so I kind of doubt. I don't
Ah.
know. So it just doesn't mean. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird in that
No, no,
aspect.
no, 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 no. When you say it like that, it does make sense. It it does make sense because yeah, there are times where you post something because it's relevant and maybe not your favorite. So I could totally see how that would happen. When it comes to like your favorite photos, I guess, do you have like a set that you can just look at and I guess kind of reset yourself, like think like, wow, like I'm not terrible.
Sometimes, yeah, there are different photo shoots that I've done that I just sometimes have to go look at to remind myself that I'm still kind of learning. Like just like everybody else, we're always learning, always growing. But I had to stop paying attention to like technical aspects of my photos because I'll see something weird that a client wouldn't. Like lighting's off, tones aren't perfect, but somebody posted in a group the other day about how photos feel instead of how they look, and I was like, that's kind of it's kind of how it should be. Like I should be way more concerned with what this photo feels like than technically what it looks like.
How do you think that you separate those two?
Oh, I don't think you can really. I think you hope that it looks good, but at the same time, you get a lot of emotion in it because that's kind of, I'm a very intimate shooter. Like I like the quiet moments. That's kind of what I go for. I don't like a lot of, bright, colorful, whatever. I like the somber, hugs, the glances, the things that you normally miss on most days. That's kind of what I like the most. And I'm like, all right, those are the moments that you're going to want to remember that you might not, that might slip your mind.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I focus on. Like I want something to feel good and gotta be pretty, but more so feel good.
You want it to feel good and look good. That makes sense. You mentioned that you took photography in high school. Is that right? Or some sort of?
No, I've never taken a class on photography.
What did you say? What?
I was in journalism.
Journalism.
For
Okay.
yearbook.
So okay, I got you. Obviously, I mean, I'm sure that they taught you simple things like rule of thirds or not even like that. Okay, so so then when it comes to getting to the point where you are now, how did you, I don't know, I guess teach yourself photography? What were some of the tutorials or lessons that helped you grow the most?
Up until about 2 years ago, I was terrible, like absolutely terrible. But then I got hooked on. I think it was honestly Jasmine Starr for her business, and then I discovered Ben Sasso. And listening to Ben talk, I feel like most photographers my age and like that are up and coming now, they're all Ben Sasso learners. Like we've all watched him, we've all read everything he could possibly put out. But just listening to him about posing and things like that, that kind of upped the game for me. because it was a big change in how I shot and how I approach shoots with models and with couples, you know. But as far as like the technical aspects of photography, it's always been kind of trial and error. And I went through my selective coloring phase and my artistic tilt phase and all the terrible things that I like to look back on and laugh about.
But it sounds like it doesn't matter, because what it is that you value most is those, for lack of a better word, moments, those intimate moments, and not so much highlight detail and grain structure and things like that, less technical. So, I mean, that sounds almost perfectly tailored to you then.
Yeah, it is. It's very much a, you know, I feel like my entire photography career has been one big experiment because I spend a lot of time trying new things and a lot of them don't work out. I think I change my editing style just about every week before I go back to, you know, what I know and love. Because I'm always seeing somebody release new presets or somebody edit a new way, and I'm like, yes, that's going to look great on my work, and then it just doesn't because I'm not them. And I think that's a lot, you know, comparison really is the thief of joy.
Absolutely. That's 100% the essence of social media right there, right? Is that every time you go and you see somebody else's work, it's I don't know what it is. You just feel inadequate for whatever reason that it is. And, you know, you really don't know that other photographer. And it's interesting that you say that, because a lot of times I get photographers come on the podcast. And I'm actually going to ask you right now, if you, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself when you first started out?
Oh, God. Oh, invest in good lenses.
Oh, okay. See, I thought you were going to say something like, don't pay attention to other photographers and just do whatever.
Oh, no.
It is
I mean, I don't think I would be where I am right now if I hadn't paid attention to other photographers to some extent. I learned a lot from people like Ben and people like Jordan both. And, you know, just even the people that are actually in state that aren't necessarily nationally known, but we've got a lot of teachers. And, you know, that's pretty much what I'd tell myself, though, lens choice, because up until, you know, I don't even want to admit how not long ago it was that I didn't own prime lenses and I was shooting on like kit lenses and thinking that was the greatest thing ever.
Well, so then what was it that made you switch to primes?
Oh, I
And
rented
how long
one.
ago was it?
Oh, it was probably like 4 years ago. I think 2012 is when I made the big switch to primes because I bought the D800, saved up, you know, all my money right when it was first released and bought it. But then I realized that, you know, it's not all about the camera. It is a little bit about the gear. But it's also like, you know, like the camera can only go so far. You got to have the lenses that can perform the way your camera can. So I spent a lot of time researching like what people were shooting with. Got my first 50 1.4 and never looked back.
Suddenly it was just you had to own the 85, 35, 24, 105, all of it, huh?
Yeah, I have serious like gear acquisition syndrome. At one point, I think I owned about 12 lenses and I only used 3 of them. But it was just like I gotta have them all because you never know when you might, you know, need a 14 millimeter fisheye or something.
It's very true. That's very true. That's very true. When I was on Canon, that was me. That was me. I had it all. Well, it wasn't quite the 14 because obviously they don't have 14, but I had the 17 to 40, I had the 24 to 70, 70 to 200. I had the 24 mil, 35, 50, and 85, and then the 135 as well. And I was just like, I shoot 35, 85 all day, with the exception of the only going to 17 for like really wide, you know, like establishing shots. Everything else I can just ditch. And then I switched to Fuji. And when I made the switch to Fuji, I was like, I'm just going to stick with 35 and 85. And it has been, it feels great. You know, I mean, it's so light. I don't have to carry bags and bags and bags. Now I have 2 bags. One of them is my 2 cameras. I have 3 lenses. I have a telephoto just in case the church is large. And then the other bag that I have is just nothing but flashes because I really like to use that stuff as well. But I would love to just even, you know, cut down the amount of flashes that I bring to a wedding too and just keep it all in one bag. I feel like that'd be so great. So when you go to weddings, do you have like cases of equipment that you bring?
I have 1 bag.
Is it a giant bag?
No, it's like a ProMaster something. I could tell you the name of it later, but I can't see it from here. But no, it has my 2 Mark IIIs in it. Has my hold fast, my 35, my 50, and my 85, and then 2 flashes. and that's it. That's all that's in my camera bag.
So is that all that you have now that you switched to Canon?
Yeah. I had a macro and I had the 135, but I sold them both because I never used them.
Never used the 135. When you said that you switched from Nikon to Canon, the first thing that popped in my head was, it's because of the 135, right? That's it.
I love the 135, but it just it doesn't fit my style. Like
right.
Nothing about it fits. I'd
just
rather
really
be
like
right
close
up there in the grit of wedding day than have to stand in the back with 135.
Right. No, that makes sense. Oh, yeah. Oftentimes I would find myself wishing that I could use the 135 more than what I actually could. But man, when you could get a killer shot with that lens, it was like, there's nothing better than this.
It is beautiful. I'll give it that.
I want to ask, when you go to post a photo online, you talked about now having amassed the following that you do, that sometimes it can be scary to post photos online, right? Because you feel like it has to be something greater than everybody else. You feel like you have this pressure upon you. But when you do post something, is it scary to hit that publish button? And if so, how do you do it?
I wouldn't say scary, just because I feel like these people follow me because they love what I put out usually. But I think sometimes it is kind of scary to have to, compete lightly, against the photographers that I am. I try not to, get caught up in who posts what and, psych myself out before I post a photo, like after Jordan Voth or something. Granted, we have two totally different followings. I'm not up to 183,000 yet, but maybe.
Yet.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes, I psych myself out and I get to thinking too hard, like this isn't good enough. It doesn't flow with the rest of my, the rest of my work. What I've written isn't good enough. I think I psych myself out over the captions more so than the photo because I feel like that's what ties the entire presence together for me. A lot of my Instagram captions are overly emotional because I'm in this, I try to use that as my outlet. That's my place that I can go and say what I need to say, because Facebook's a little different. It's a different beast. You can't be quite as open on Facebook or real, I feel like, just because it's so limited and nobody sees it. So you're, once again, streaming into the void. But Instagram's a little different for me. I don't know. I get real caught up in the captions, and sometimes I feel like I put too much out there, and so that's kind of something I get psyched out about, because I'm like, God, people are gonna think I'm weird. People are gonna stop following me because I whine on Instagram or something. But I don't know.
Has anybody ever said that to you? Like, hey, stop whining?
I've had friends text me like, hey, you okay? I just saw your Instagram post. Are you sitting in your room crying again? And I'm like, no, it's not that serious. I just.
All right. Well, it's good that you have a close group of friends who are close enough to you that that they pay attention to you, and if something were to go wrong, that they'd be the first ones to ask.
I do have great friends.
That's what it's all about, for sure. What is it that makes you happy?
Ooh, that's a loaded question.
How so?
Well, I mean, there are lots of things in life that make me happy. Spending time with my friends makes me happy. Are you talking photography-wise or just life-wise?
I mean, the kind of theme of this is self-doubt and the feeling of inadequacies and stuff. So how do you bounce back from stuff like that? How do you get into this place of happiness? Where's your zen spot?
My zen spot. That's whenever I get to put things together for myself. A lot of times, we have to shoot for clients and it's paid work, and there's a lot of pressure on that, and sometimes you don't get to be as creative as you want to be. And so whenever I start getting in a lull or I feel myself kind of getting down, that's when I reach out to some of my friends that are models that I've met through the agency here in town. And I'm like, hey, I just need to shoot. Let's get together. And so I'll just kind of set something up on my own with no rules, no boundaries, no anything. And that's kind of my happy place. That's where I go when I need to escape and kind of get back to the heart of why I shoot. I just get to create, and that's something incredible that not everybody gets to do. And so I try to remind myself of that whenever I get down.
Yeah. Do you ever post those photos on Instagram?
Oh yeah, I think 90% of my Instagram right now is probably model photos and very little.
Okay. What would you do if somebody hated those photos that made you the happiest?
I mean, that's their prerogative. I don't create for anybody else. I create for me. So unless it's paid work, in which case I'm creating for both of us. But Somebody can. There's lots of people that hate my work. I'm sure they're out there and they're critical, and that's great. They can they can do them, and I'll keep doing me.
I love that. I think that was a great quote right there. Oftentimes it's weird because I feel like as the interview goes on, people open up more and more and more, and every time it's like, oh man, like it's been a half hour. I don't want to waste these people's time. Like I have to figure out how to wrap this up. They always end it with like knowledge bomb. Like, oh my gosh, I have to just get that like tattooed on me. Like, don't do it for them. Just do it for yourself. Who cares? That was wonderful. That was wonderful. Well, like I said, I do really want to be mindful of your time, and I really appreciate everything that you've shared today. Can you tell the listener where they can find you anywhere online if they want to follow you?
Yeah, we are. Website is bmatthewscreative.com. On Instagram at bjmatthews09, and on Facebook at bmatthewscreative also. So
do you have any plans on expand? And of course, I'm going to link to all that stuff in the show notes as well. So if anybody wants to know, they can find you there.
I got two into my hand motions and ripped my headphones out.
I was just saying that I'm done. I'm leaving. I can't believe this. No, I'm just kidding. I said that we're going to link to all of this in the show notes. And if anybody wants to find you there, they don't have to write anything down while they're driving or anything. They can just head over there and click on your links. I had a question, though, about your website, or at least with your branding being called B. Matthews Creative. Do you have any plans on expanding into other forms of media, or is that just a really kick-ass name that you love?
Well, it was honestly just the first thing that came to mind, because there was also a Benjamin in town that was also a photographer here, and so I couldn't use my name, and I feel like BJ Matthews photography doesn't really flow off the tongue, and that was really just kind of the first thing that came. But no, I'm massively untalented in all the other arts.
Oh man, whatever. You could figure it out. I mean, if you I really do enjoy your work. I really do. Looking at it, I can tell that like it does feel emotional, and that even if I don't read the captions, I feel something whenever I look at your photos. And I think that sometimes that's missing from a lot of photographers. Sometimes they just go out and do try to shoot for the technical aspects. They try to, oh, let me just nail this pose. Oh, but, the couple's face looks like they're bored to tears. Like, so what's the point of this? Where I've never been on set with you, but I can tell just looking at people, they're happy, they're having a good time. And then looking at your reviews, they all say, like, he made us feel comfortable, his personality is out of this world. And you can tell, you can put those two things together and say, he's obviously having a blast. He's obviously having a ton of good, like, just a ton of fun. And it really shows off in your photos. So all that I can say, man, is just keep it up, because I think that you are doing an incredible job.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, again, I just wanted to thank you so much. And real quick, where do you see... This is not a quick question now that I think about it. This is about to roll on my tongue. Where do you see the future of photography going?
Oh, up. Is that a good answer?
Perfect answer. It can't go anywhere but up. And if it didn't, well then, what the hell are we doing here? So, again, I do want to thank you so much for your time. And I really can't wait to see what the future has for anything else that you got planned.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Guys, what did you think of that episode? How did that episode make you feel? One of my biggest takeaways was that, the amount of followers that you have on Facebook, on Instagram, isn't going to be directly correlated to your happiness as a photographer. It's not going to be directly correlated to your success as a photographer. It's simply just another number. It's nice to have. It's great, to see all these people who really enjoy your work and really appreciate what it is that you're saying and what it is that you're doing. But that alone isn't going to make you happy. It's not going to make you a great photographer. BJ even said, like, man, I love when I get all these, likes and comments. It makes me feel good. But at the same time, I have to be happy with myself, essentially. And other people aren't going to do it for me. That is huge. That was a huge takeaway for me. So I would love to know what your biggest takeaway for this episode was. And BJ, if you're listening to this episode, man, thank you for just being so open. Thank you for being so honest. I guarantee that a lot of listeners to this podcast are going to feel, the exact same way as you do today, right? And they're just starting off. Maybe they only have 5 friends or fans on Instagram, and they're hoping to grow to a size that you are one day. So again, thank you so much, Guys, again, let me know what your biggest takeaway was for this episode. Reach out to me on Instagram. Let's be friends on Instagram. Let's grow the podcast social media following. I would love for you guys to be part of the conversation. It would really be quite incredible to hear what you guys think. So that's it. That's it for this week's episode. I want you to get out there, keep shooting. Like I said, I know that it's cold, but if you can brave it, go out and enjoy. If it's warm wherever you live, you're lucky. Don't rub it in. All right, guys. I will talk to you next week. And like I said, just have fun. Get out there. Start shooting. Love you guys. Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast. Be sure to join the conversations on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want any links or resources we talked about in today's episode, check out the show notes at beginnerphotographypodcast.com. See you again next week.